Well, from gas to insurance to maintenance, owning a car is expensive, but one lawmaker in Maryland says car owners should not have to pay for their biannual emissions tests anymore. In fact, he's planning to introduce legislation to completely do away with that test. News 4 transportation reporter Adam Tuss has the story.
Every 2 years, you roll into the Maryland Vehicle Emissions Testing Center, pay a fee, likely pass the test, and go on your way. The emissions test in Maryland more than doubled in price this year, from $14 to $30. And State Delegate Christopher Eric Boucher, a Republican representing Carroll and Frederick counties, says the test is more or less useless these days. He says newer cars have much more updated emission standards, and essentially cars right now are coming off the lot clean.
There's a system in place now is obsolete and no longer needed.
Well, look, one of the main questions in all of this, how many cars here in Maryland are actually failing the emissions test? Well, according to the state's Motor Vehicle Administration, more than 90% of the cars are passing. Boucher is worried that the fees for a test that drivers will likely pass are adding up.
Even though it's a small amount, say $30 per person, but if your family, you have a couple teenage kids, and you got them all in cars, that adds up. It winds up just being a money net for the state government as an excuse to pull in revenue.
Now, according to the Federal Highway Administration, the number of registered vehicles in Maryland was about 4.9 million as of this year. If you have to get your emissions test every 2 years, that means roughly $150 million in revenue goes to the state every 2 years because of this test. But Boucher argues not having to operate the state's emission testing centers, that offsets the loss of revenue. Meanwhile, drivers in Maryland aren't completely sold on this proposal.
Isn't it better for the environment if we do test emissions?
I think that there's some room for discussion, but ultimately getting rid of all standards whatsoever would be just kind of a snowball money grab for production of cars.
Boucher says he plans to introduce legislation on this issue soon. In Durwood, Adam Tuss, News 4.
Now, most cars that were made in 1995 or earlier are exempt from the emissions test in Maryland. Motorcycles are exempt as well.